I will make the motion. I just want to try it.
Is that one yours?
I want to talk to you about it. It makes sense.
Calendar's open.
Michelle.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Tonight is the April 24, 2017 Westminster City Council meeting. There are American flags on both the front and back. If you would, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Parker, take the roll, please.
Atchison.
Here.
Baker.
Here.
Bird.
Here.
DeCambra.
Here.
Garcia.
Here.
Pinter.
Here.
Seitz.
Here.
Council, you have before you the minutes of the April 10th, 2017 meeting. At this time, I'll entertain a motion. Mr. Baker.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that, will the City Council approve the minutes of the April 10th, 2017 meeting as presented?
Ms. Seitz.
Second.
Motion and second have been made to approve the minutes. Do what?
I will second.
Okay. All right. We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as published for the April 10th, 2017. All those in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ms. Seitz, did you have something? Okay, all right, thank you. Motion carries. First item on the agenda tonight is a proclamation regarding Drinking Water Week. Ms. DeCambra, if you would, please.
Okay, if you all want to join me up here.
Hi, Mary.
Sorry, Okay. Okay. So how are you guys doing? Do you want to introduce us here, Stu?
Stu Feinglass.
Okay.
Christine Gray.
Mary Fabigia. Eric Scott. Sarah Borgers. Well, welcome everybody. I'm so excited to do this proclamation today. And I'm going to take a moment to read a little bit about it. So, the week of May 7th through the 17th is Drinking Water Week in Westminster and across the country, and serves as a reminder of the daily importance of providing safe and clean drinking water to our residents. I want to take a moment. So this past week, I had family visiting from Mexico, my husband's brother and my sister-in-law and my nephews. And a couple of days ago to my godson, Lorenzo, he says he wants water. So I go to the faucet, give him a glass of water. He did not want to drink it. So he was like, no. And I was like, well, didn't he want water? I was so confused. But later, I was reminded, because in Mexico, you don't drink water from the faucet. So we had to explain to him, look, it's okay to do it. And we all started drinking water. And then he was like, okay. But to me, it was such a reminder of how much sometimes we take for granted something like, being able to drink potable water. And it is because of the great work that we do in our city to make sure that we can continue to have good quality water, and because of all the work that you all do. So thank you very much for that. And I don't know if you want to take a few moments and say a few words before I read the proclamation.
If you'd like to read the proclamation first, that'd be great.
I'll do it first. Okay, whereas water is our most valuable natural resource, and whereas only tap water delivers public health protection, fire protection, support for our economy, and the quality of life we enjoy. And whereas any measure of a successful society, low mortality rates, economic growth and diversity, productivity, and public safety are in some way related to access to safe water. And whereas we're all stewards of the water infrastructure upon which future generations depend. And whereas each citizen of our city is called upon to help protect our source waters from pollution, to practice water conservation, and to get involved in local water issues by getting to know their water. Now, therefore, I, Herb Atchison, Mayor of the City of Westminster, Colorado, on behalf of the entire City Council and staff, do hereby proclaim the week of May 7th through this 13th, 2017 as Drinking Water Week.
Thank you, Councilor DeCambra, Mayor, and all the councilors. We are honored to accept this proclamation that recognizes the efforts of all those involved in bringing safe, clean water to each and every tap in the city. Here tonight, we have just a few of the staff whose responsibility is to obtain the water rights sufficient to meet the city's needs and transport the water through the ditches and canals to Stanley Lake, monitor the watershed in Stanley Lake to make sure we protect the quality of the water, design and build the facilities needed to get the water where it needs to go, treat the water to not only meet the regulatory requirements, but make sure that it tastes great, make sure that all the computers are kept running that control all of the systems, keep all the electrical and mechanical parts of the system going, collect and analyze all the right samples and get the reports to the Department of Public Health on time, and operate and maintain over 500 million miles of distribution system to bring this valuable resource right to our faucets. I'd like to recognize Sarah Borgers, Stephen Gay, and Max Kirschbaum for supporting and managing the department, Jody Andrews and Don Tripp for their leadership, and most of all, the mayor and city council for being proactive in recognizing the importance of protecting our water supply so we can have great tasting water that meets and exceeds the strictest regulations. And now I'll have Eric Scott tell you about what we're doing in the community this week.
For the entire month of May, we will have a display at the College Hill Library. And we'll have some giveaways for the kiddos, so please come by and check it out.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And I think we're going to take a picture. Is this on or have we? Oh, yeah, it is. Okay, here.
There we go. Okay, I'm gonna take two pictures. 1, 2, 3. There we go. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Ms. Seitz, if you would do Community Pride Day.
Can I have Christine May come up? Is it Kristen or Christine?
Kristen.
Kristen.
You got it right first.
All right. Never double check yourself. So I have the pleasure today of proclaiming May 13th, 2017 Community Pride Day. This is by and large one of my favorite events in Westminster because it's the day that we get to see the actual spirit of our community. We have over 1,000 community members that come together to clean up our parks, our open spaces, and our green spaces, picking up literally tons of trash every year. After the event, there is a barbecue where we have community members come together. There's typically music, and it's a lot of fun. But to me, it really embodies Westminster, where we have so much goodwill that people are willing to spend their Saturday coming together and bettering the community. So if you, I would like to read the proclamation, and then I'd love for you to give a little bit more details. Does that work for you? Okay. Whereas the City of Westminster and Highland Hills Park and Recreation District have joined together to mobilize citizens to take action in their communities, and whereas the goals of Community Pride Day is to bring together youth, government, businesses, family, churches, neighborhoods, and community leaders to help clean up the city and Highland Hills Park and Recreation District and share pride in our community. And whereas Westminster and Highland Hills Park and Recreation District have organized a cleanup program with sponsors and donations from the community. And whereas the caring citizen volunteers of our communities are ready and willing to do their part to engage in cleanup activities and demonstrate their civic pride and individual responsibility. Now, therefore, I, Herb Atchison, Mayor of the City of Westminster, Colorado, on behalf of the entire City Council and staff, do hereby proclaim May 13th, 2017, Community Pride Day in the City of Westminster, and call upon all citizens and civic organizations to recognize and support the efforts of the volunteers and citizens who take pride in keeping Westminster and Highland Hills Park and Recreation District clean places to live. There you go. Oops, sorry. Oh, that's okay.
I don't have a whole lot to say, but Community Pride Day is coming up and registration's still open, so we're looking for volunteers. It's a really easy event if you've already got a group, say a scout group or a church group. We provide the bags, we provide all the supplies. Once the bags are filled, you can even just leave them there along the trail, and our staff comes and cleans them up afterwards. And then our cookout is always a huge hit, but it's a great way for people to give back to the community. And it's beautiful to see every year how many people in Westminster and Highland Hills come out and help us spring clean right before the summer activities. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, Ms. Bird, if you would, Sexual Awareness Week, please.
So I have the privilege of declaring the month of April Sexual Assault Awareness Month. So just to give you a little bit of background about why we have this Awareness Month, it first began back in England in the 1970s when women held protests against violence they encountered as they walked through the streets at night. They called them Take Back the Night Marches, and word quickly spread to other countries as the protests grew. By the late 1980s, activists also wanted to focus on sexual assault awareness, and they selected the month of April to hold events across the nation and the world. Each year, a new theme is chosen to promote Sexual Assault Awareness Month. For 2017, the theme is Engaging New Voices. People are encouraged to learn more about sexual assault awareness and prevention, with a special focus on Believe Survivors, Change the Culture. Sexual violence is widespread and impacts all communities. So I have some troubling statistics. 1 in 5 women and 1 in 60 men will be raped at some point in their lives. 1 in 6 boys and 1 in 4 girls will experience a sexual assault before the age of 18. Those who have been raped are 6 times more likely than others to report having attempted suicide in the past year. And only 6 out of 1,000 cases of sexual assault result in incarceration of the perpetrators. So, the Colorado Coalition Against Sexual Assault has deemed Wednesday, April 26, 2017, Colorado Denim Day, in which state agencies, including our City of Westminster, other municipalities, businesses, and other groups in Colorado are asked to allow their employees to pay $5 in exchange for wearing jeans on Denim Day. So I offer a challenge to anyone sitting out here
And listening to this, if you have a business or any influence over people who set dress code policy at your place of work, encourage them to also host a Denim Day so we can spread awareness of this challenge in our communities. So now I'm going to give the proclamation to Cody Erb, who's been working on this for our staff. Thank you, Cody, for all your work to put this together for us. So, whereas sexual violence is widespread and impacts every person in this community, and whereas rape, sexual assault, and sexual harassment harm our community, and statistics show 1 in 5 women and 1 in 60 men will be raped at some point in their lives, and whereas 1 in 6 boys and 1 in 4 girls will experience a sexual assault before age 18, and whereas 1 in 14 high school and middle school students in Colorado report having been physically forced to have sex, and those who have been raped are 6 times more likely than others to report having attempted suicide in the past year, and whereas only 6 out of 1,000 cases of sexual assaults result in incarceration of the perpetrators, and whereas we must work together to create a safer environment for all by educating our children and our community about sexual violence prevention by proactively teaching our children that active and sober consent is a moral and legal priority when engaging in sexual activity, by supporting and believing survivors, and by speaking out against harmful attitudes and actions. And now, therefore, I, Herb Atchison, Mayor of the City of Westminster, Colorado, join advocates and communities across the country in taking action to prevent sexual violence and supporting survivors by declaring that April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. I further declare that April 26th is Colorado Denim Day in Westminster, a day in which each of us can begin conversations that raise awareness about the importance of preventing sexual violence and supporting survivors. Thank you very much.
That was a mic drop.
Ms. Parker, do you have anyone signed up? Okay, the next item on the agenda will be citizen communication. This is a period of time where the city council sits and listens to what you have to tell us on any item that you choose. If there is a public hearing scheduled on an item, we ask you to hold your comments on that item until we reach it, but there being no public hearing tonight, we should not have an issue with that. We ask you to limit your comments to no more than 5 minutes. Come to the podium when your name is called. When you start to speak, the light will come on to let you know that your time has started. Yellow means you have 1 minute left, and red means that your time is up. This time I have 3 people who have signed up to speak tonight. Debbie Koch. Yes, ma'am. Come on down. It's your name and your address, please, ma'am. Just speak right into the microphone.
It's Debbie Coash, C-O-A-S-H. My address is 8781 Quigley Street in Westminster. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here tonight to complain about the panhandling problem, which I feel is really a growing problem in this town. Several times now, I've been accosted by panhandlers. I've looked up from my car window and found really criminal-looking men that have, walked up to my car and asked for money. I've been accosted twice at 7-Eleven, one time coming out of the library on Irving Street. We have a panhandler here at 94th and Sheridan. He's there pretty much every day. I'm starting to notice that more panhandlers are getting out on that corner. I called the Westminster Police Department, the non-emergency line, and I spoke to a woman officer. I asked her if it was illegal to panhandle. She told me yes, it was, and I said, well, what do I do then? And she said, call 911. I didn't feel like that was the right answer, but that's what she told me. And so I ended up calling 911 the next day on this man, and the 911 operator told me that unless they are impeding traffic or they are giving somebody a problem, there really isn't much they can do about it. They did go ahead and send an officer out. I waited in the Walmart parking lot to see how long it would take the cops to come. It took them 35 minutes, so they gave it low priority. I'm really getting tired of being accosted. I'm tired of feeling like I have to lock my doors when I stop at a red light. I also run our church chapel, which is down at Holy Trinity, down at 76th, and it's open to the public. We had a panhandler come in and ask one of our little ladies if he could have some money. And when she refused him and said, I don't have any, then he got very menacing on her. And I heard about it because I run the chapel. So I reported him to the police. But I feel like it's making this town really unsafe. I've lived here for 29 years, and this is the first time that I can remember feeling concerned about my safety in this town. It's making our town look seedy and too many vagrants. I just feel like I ought to be able to go shopping and come back to my car without looking up and finding some really scary looking individual there in my window or around. The stores have not been very much help. They tell me that what they'll do is move them up to the corner, but once they're in the corner, they can't do anything about it. Now, the other day I'm a housewife, so I'm around a lot in the middle of the day. Next to that man at 94th and Sheridan were 4 men. They looked like they were wearing paramilitary outfits. They had sunglasses on and hoods over their heads. They really did look like criminals, but I thought, well, what's the point of calling the police? They're not impeding traffic. They're not giving anyone trouble, but they really looked unsafe. I think it's bringing a criminal element to Westminster, and I'd like to know if there's something that could be done to make it illegal. I find it hard to believe that anybody has to panhandle. We have county assistants, we have food banks here. What is the good purpose of making the citizens feel unsafe? It doesn't do any good. And I'm really tired of it, and I'm fed up. And that's what I'd like to complain about to y'all. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Where's the timer? I know. We're working on it, guys. Okay, you got it? Are we ready? Yes. Okay, all right. Next item, next person up I have is Mr. Ron Taylor.
Council, my name is Ron Taylor. I'm the president of Westminster Firefighters, IFF Local 2889, and I live 1/3 of the year at 9150 Lowell Boulevard. In 2013, the state legislature and governor passed the Colorado Firefighter Safety Act. In 2015, the Westminster firefighters invoked our political right to walk the streets and gain signatures to start the process to fall under the protections of the Colorado Firefighter Safety Act. Immediately, the Westminster City Council and Westminster City Administration were quite worried that if we won, that the Colorado Firefighter Safety Act would conflict with Westminster Home Rule. So in very collaborative fashion, we sat down with the city, listened to the concerns of council and city administration, and we collectively put together, we dropped the Colorado Firefighter Safety Act and collectively put together 2A, the collective bargaining for firefighters. Westview firefighters knocked on 18,889 doors, engaged thousands of registered voters. In November of 2016, 30,675 voting citizens voted to give Westminster firefighters a voice in our safety and working conditions. After West E firefighters volunteered to protect Westminster's home rule, we stepped out and we won that election. And how are we repaid for winning that election? We're given meeting after meeting of ordinance language that is extremely restrictive. The meetings have been in good fashion. We highly respect the city administration, but we're not sure that we're getting across the spirit of why we walked the streets and engaged thousands of voters. Voters voted to give us a voice in our working conditions and our safety. This language is subpar. This language could be better. This language does not let us get to the root issues that affect us on a daily basis over a 30-year career. We have compression issues where paramedics coming out of paramedic school make less money than firefighters that they were in the academy with. These are paramedics that have over 2 times the training, over 5 times the job responsibility, and over 10 times the amount of responsibility on a daily basis. Every time they step on that rig. This language does not allow us to get to the root issues of our compression issues. This ballot language does not align with the spirit of why we walked the streets, why we left our families all summer long to engage these voters. We don't even have the right under this language to sit down and talk about a possible employee retirement health care plan. We're not saying that this is something we're asking you to give us at this point in time. We want to sit down and have an educated conversation over aspects like this. Firefighters can't fight fires into their mid-60s. You can't do it. And healthcare is a rising cost year after year. So when we have to bail out because our bodies can't take it anymore, then we need to be able to understand these are issues that we face over a lifetime career and be able to sit down and have educated conversations with the city over our wants and our needs. The city is bending to the point where they're listening to us that we need representation during our disciplinary hearings, but they won't sit down and talk to us about what are those roles and responsibilities of the person sitting in for representation. Right now, all we have is a guy sitting in a room. We can't sit down and talk about what that person's roles are going to look like. And we want to sit down and collaborate with the city and have conversations, what worked for you, what worked for us, and come to an agreement. We, as firefighters, in the city, we're very proud of this city. We're proud to step on our rigs every day and serve the citizens here. We understand our job and the safety issues that align with our job. This language doesn't even allow us to discuss our work schedule. No one understands our sleep schedule and our time away from our families and our time away on holidays like Westminster firefighters. I'll wrap up. We can do better. The firefighters walked the streets so we could have a voice in our issues. The citizens wanted us to have a voice in those issues. We appreciate the collaboration we've been given so far. We want to make sure we can harness great cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Ms. Pereira?
Hello, Council. My name is Naomi Pereira. I'm an attorney on behalf of IAFF Local 2889, and I've actually been involved in this process of the setting of the city ordinance and working with the city and collaborating. And it has been a very collaborative process so far. I did want to go and just make one point that Mr. Taylor touched upon, and that this ordinance is actually just an invitation to the table. What it's doing is it's setting the groundwork in which conversations can happen. Now, if you have an ordinance that is very restrictive, what it will do is it will cut off the ability to even have conversations, important conversations where firefighters can go and have an opportunity to go and, come and describe what they do. as a citizen, not as a firefighter, even though I've been representing firefighters for my whole career, and that's actually what I do. I represent firefighter unions across Colorado and in Wyoming. I have a sense of their working conditions, but I'm not out there putting my life on the line. They are. And I'm not facing the dangers that they face every single day. They are. They are put at the front lines. They are facing, just all sorts of hazards and dangers, and they're protecting the lives of the citizens, and they know what can be done to make their job better, to make the job safer, and to go and protect the citizens as best they can. Now, when you have an ordinance that is very narrow in its construction, what you do is you foreclose the opportunity to really have true conversation about those issues. The ordinance as drafted right now, for example, only allows for discussion of like the amount of leave, not necessarily the way that leave is distributed, not the policies behind those leaves. That is a very, very narrow construction, and one that I have not seen actually in any other ordinance or city charter across the state. Very similarly, there's a very limited discussion over topics related to safety. It's as constrained as it could possibly be. To keep in mind, what you need to keep in mind here is that if you go and you foreclose those conversations, it's going to go and defeat the purpose of actually embracing collective bargaining. Collective bargaining actually allows for true discussion of items and gives a seat at the table for firefighters in a way that they haven't had. Now, there's also in this ordinance a number of checks, and that's something else that I think is really important to keep in mind. In terms of the number of checks that are, here in terms of, having a seat at the table, but not having firefighters run amok and somehow take over, running the department. You have to keep in mind that you need to trust the firefighters themselves, and which I assume that you do. Then assuming that there are frictions between, the city and the firefighters in terms of negotiations, the second check is that there will be fact-finding. So there'll be a third party that can come in and say whether something's unreasonable. And then even as a further check beyond that, you'll go and have a vote of the people. So there are so many different mechanisms in place that will make sure that, inviting the firefighters to have a true seat at the table will not create a situation where there is a misdistribution of decision-making power between the city and between firefighters. And so allow these firefighters to have say in their working conditions. This isn't dictating what will actually happen at the collective bargaining table. All it is doing is creating the framework in which that discussion can take place. And the more restrictive it is, the more narrow it is, the less it truly appears that you guys believe in collective bargaining, because collective bargaining is having a true conversation and allowing for people to truly have a true say in their working conditions at the table. So, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone who did not take the opportunity to sign up that was wanting to come forward and speak to the council tonight? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Next item on the agenda is a report of city officials. Mr. Tripp.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I just have one thing I'd like to say tonight, and I'd like to take this opportunity to have everybody in the room know that you're in the presence of somebody who's had an extraordinary impact on this city. This person is going to be retiring soon. I'm going to embarrass her in just a moment with her name, but maybe to let you think just a little bit about a person who came up through the organization at the from the very front lines, literally front office work, and was a bright and shining star in the organization. Different mentors found that out, moved her up into various capacities of frontline supervision, supervision over work units. She eventually went back to school and got her degree, and ultimately became a department head of this city, running arguably the most complex and broadest serving department in the city. our General Services Department, which runs our fleet, our building operations and maintenance, our municipal court, and that related judicial system. On the court administration side, in human resources, the hiring and development of the workforce, the planning around employee wages and benefits and all the related issues, and frankly, creating the foundation of the excellence of this city government. The 1,800 employees, 1,000 full-time and 800 part-time that really have done such a extraordinary job for dozens of years of delivering service. Well, that person who created that foundation that we now call SPIRIT as an acronym for the culture in this organization, the person who, most of the people sitting in this room here are city employees, she hired most of us. So you have to take responsibility for that one too. But I'm really pleased to recognize tonight at her last council meeting, Debbie Mitchell and her 31 years of service. Debbie, thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Tripp?
No, sir.
That's it? Okay. Council, any comments? Okay, Mr. Baker.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The other day I had the opportunity of driving down 144th Avenue at Lake Okemukee. And that's one of the parks, and it has a walking path around the lake and stuff like that. And the part that struck me most about it was the parking lot was completely filled. People were parked where they're not supposed to park, including a couple of them up on the grass. And sometimes I think we forget how important cars are to the life of our city, how dependent we are on them. And it disappoints me when I sense an undercurrent in the city that we somehow don't like cars. We want to make it difficult for cars. I think as of the suburb, we should embrace cars. And when I look into the future with the really driverless cars, I see more of them. And as far as the park goes, shouldn't we listen to what the people are saying? And we shouldn't let success be a burden on us. And if it's successful, let's make more room. Thank you.
Ms. Byrd.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I wanted to speak just briefly about a tour that the mayor and I and several of our staff members had the privilege of taking at one of our area high schools, Westminster Public Schools. Let us come in and look at all of their career and technical education programs that they have in their high school. And it was amazing. These kids they're learning carpentry skills, they're learning how to weld, they have a botanic garden area, a greenhouse that they are being skilled at. They're learning how to do all of this. Did I say they're building their own 3D printers? I mean, these kids were incredible. Much of what they're doing is giving them life skills so that when they get out of high school, these kids can have a choice. Maybe they will decide to go on to college and they'll be well prepared for that. But if they decide that isn't the path for them, they'll have skills that enable them to be career ready and be able to make a living wage once they get out of high school. So I really wanted to extend a lot of appreciation for the hospitality that Westminster High School extended to us, but then also make sure our community knows about the incredible work that they're doing for our kids. Every student who comes out of school who has skills has a multiplier effect of positivity on the rest of our community, and truly they're to be commended. They're a real asset and a gem in our community. So thank you.
Ms. Sykes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to start off by echoing City Manager Don Tripp's words in regards to Debbie Mitchell's retirement. Debbie, you will be missed, and we appreciate the legacy of good government that you helped establish here in Westminster. I mentioned earlier tonight that at our Community Pride Day, we get over 1,000 volunteers who come. I believe that that is a measurable example of the goodwill that we have in Westminster because we're a well-run government. in general services, Debbie's team has been instrumental in making sure that we have the right people working here, and that we treat them fairly and that we keep them. And that's why we see so much longevity. So thank you for helping build that community goodwill. I also want to real quick talk about last week. We had a lot of events as a city council last week, but one of the events we went to was all of the school boards. We have 3 school boards here in Westminster, and we met with them as a city council. And we've done this for a few years, but this year we actually, the conversation was much more actionable. We talked about all of the different ways that our efforts in Westminster intersect the school districts and help build success. I wanted to thank first our mayor for putting these meetings together, having the original kernel of the idea, and for our council for pushing them to have a little bit more substance, and for our staff to come through and find a plan that we could really make these meaningful meetings and figure out how do we work together to further our common goals, which if we don't have strong schools, we don't have a strong community. So that was wonderful. We also had an Earth Day event on Saturday, very well run. We had booths from all sorts of different partners talking about how you can live a more sustainable lifestyle. There were baby goats there from our open space program, which made all the kids happy, birds of prey. So it was a great event, and I wanted to thank staff and the community for supporting it. And finally, I just wanted to touch on the proclamation that Councilor Byrd gave today. I thought you guys may be interested in the history of Denim Day and how it actually started, because it's a dark story, and it goes to why we need to have proclamations like this to really build public awareness. So if you don't mind, I'm going to read this brief story. This is in 1997. In Rome, Italy, an 18-year-old girl was raped by her 45-year-old driving instructor, who was later convicted and sentenced to jail. The perpetrator appealed the sentence, and his case went to the Italian Supreme Court, where the case was overturned. The head judge released a statement arguing that because the victim wore tight jeans, he assumed that she must have helped her perpetrator remove her jeans, and therefore consented. Enraged by the verdict, the women in the Italian parliament launched into immediate action and protested by wearing jeans on the steps of the Italian parliament building. This was the beginning of what has become a worldwide event and movement to wear jeans as a visible means of protest against misconceptions that surround sexual assault. One of our core services as a community is public safety. The statistics that Councilor Byrd read to you about sexual assault and the prevalence are not something that we should just swallow. They're horrifying. I am very proud that we are working to see if Westminster can become an It's on Us community where we work on promoting prevention for sexual assault, and really by changing the conversation around sexual assault to how do we understand what consent is, and how are we advocates? So just wanted to bring that up. I hope all of you will join us on Wednesday in wearing denim. Thank you.
Mr. Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As Councilor Seitz pointed out, there were lots of events last week, but what I want to talk about is an event the mayor and I were able to attend Saturday morning, which was the 50th anniversary season of Westminster Little League. And this year they're going to be playing, they play at Tepper baseball fields. And this year they're going to be playing in completely remodeled facilities over there. Thanks to our amazing staff, Jason Genk and his team, really did some amazing work over there. It looks like Coors Field when you walk out there. The field is just absolutely beautiful. The fences are beautiful. And this is a program, we had a chance to talk to the board of directors while we were out there. This is a program that is one of the most affordable Little League programs in the entire metro area. They take pride in not turning away kids. Even if you can't really afford to pay the registration fee, they have different programs to help you find ways we can get those kids participating in the program that want to be a part of the Little League. And now that they have these beautiful fields to play on, I think that's wonderful, and I just want to commend our staff on the amazing job that they've done. I know that we even have some additional work that's going to go in there, but they're not finished yet, but it looks spectacular, and a number of youth in Westminster are going to be able to enjoy Little League this year on an amazing facility thanks to the work of our staff, and I just want to say thank you.
Ms. Pinter.
Yes, hello. Like many of my council colleagues, we had a very full week this past week, and we're going to have a very full week coming up this next week. In addition to the activities mentioned, we also had the opportunity to attend and celebrate with the Westminster Chamber at their annual gala, as well as with CASA, which supports child advocates in our court system on behalf of youth in the court system to provide them stability when they're going through a very tumultuous time. And we've seen a lot of jurisdictions pull together to support both of these efforts right here in Westminster. And then with regard to the Community Pride Day, if you haven't signed up, I would encourage you to do so. It's something my family's done for many years now, and I would encourage you to do it with some neighbors, with some friends, with some Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, wherever your family congregates. There's a great and handy, easy directions on our website, and this is something that gives back and part of the overall volunteerism that makes our city hum. When we have our volunteer celebrations, it usually ends up being that volunteers end up contributing about $1 million worth of hours to our city every year, and that happens little by little. And please be part of this great celebration, and I have to say the party at the end of the day is worth it. So please come out and join us.
Mr. Camera.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to take a moment to acknowledge Tammy Hitchens. She has been appointed by the governor to be part of the Fire and Police Pension Association of Colorado. And let me just say, this is quite an honor. Only 9 people get to serve on the board of directors. And tomorrow I invite everybody, and she's like, she's getting embarrassed in the back. But I invite everybody, if you're able to attend, at 2 p.m. At the Senate Finance Committee, which is room 357. Everybody's welcome to come to the Capitol and celebrate Tammy as she gets appointed and to continue to represent the city of Westminster as she always does. Thank you.
Okay, a couple of things. Council, I know all of you are maintaining large paper files at home that are eating up your storage space. So just a reminder that May 13th is the city shred-a-thon at the police department. So it's against you to go home, clean out all that paper you've been storing. Makes it a much safer home. You won't have all that stuff around in case the fire department has to come by. 2 events that we had here at the Westin this last week. The Vista Adventist Hospital Women's Wellness Program held its first program last year. And that program was a kickoff for them, about 220 people. The event this week was their second one, 520. Almost double what they have done in the past. And being one of 9 guys in the room with 520 women was very inviting to stay and keep an eye on what's going on.
You held your own. You did great.
Yeah, I did.
You did great.
I got out alive. But the programs that Vista was offering on women's health is just outstanding. If you get a chance to see any of their programming, stop by their facilities. The wellness programs they have over there are just outstanding. We couldn't encourage them more to continue this program because it brings a lot of things that deal with women's health to light that many may not have recognized, may not see the early signs of, and it helps in identifying a better community for us and making sure we are a well group here. Now, the other one was a little bit different. It was the 114th anniversary of the Daughters of the American Revolution, who were in town for their annual convention, and for the last 2 years have been relocated from Denver to Westminster. Approximately 450 attendees were here on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and we were very happy to have them. They are a service organization that have been around for, as I said, 114 years now, and they are very much engaged in what goes on in the history of the United States, passing on that history and make sure we don't forget what happened in the past. So we welcome both of those groups. We appreciate their coming to Westminster, and the visit they do helps us as well. We enjoy the dollars that they bring here and the investment of our community. So we appreciate them coming by. And again, May 13th for our shred-a-thon. If there are no other comments, the next item on the agenda is the consent agenda as a group of routine matters to be acted on with a single motion and vote. We have determined a request has been made to remove 2 items from the consent agenda, items 8H and 8I. Other than that, we will entertain a motion for the other items. Mr. Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that the City Council adopt or the consent agenda, items 8A, 8B, 8C, 8D, 8E, 8F, 8G, and 8J.
Okay, I have a motion. Ms.
Second.
Byrd? Okay, I have a motion for items 8A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and J on the consent agenda. If there are no other comments, we have a motion and a second. Please signify by the vote of your lights as soon as I can get it up. And there you go. Motion carries on a 7-0 vote. Okay, and next item on the agenda is a Councilor's Bill number 11. I'm sorry, going back to 8H. Forgetting the ones I had. All right, we move back to the water rate and sewer rate fee study. This is item 8H. And can I have a motion by someone from council? Ms. Seitz?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to authorize the transfer of funds from the Water Park It Capital Improvement Account to the new Water Sewer Rate and Tap Fee Study Account. Can I do these as one, or do I do them separately?
You need a second. Well, yeah. Ms. Byrd?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to authorize the transfer of funds. And all those in favor, if you would, please. You want to talk? I'll say, Mr. Baker?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am against this, proposal. I think that our city staff has the knowledge and experience and skin in the game to do a better job, and I think this expenditure is unnecessary.
Okay, Ms. Seitz?
Hi, Mr. Mayor. I had the privilege last week of going to a 2-day conference held by the Water Now Alliance, where they had experts from all across the United States talking about the different ways to structure water rates. And those rates are going to change the way they're structured depending on the size of your community, depending on the age of your community, and depending on build out and weather variability. This is part of the good governance that I discussed earlier, where our staff takes a proactive approach to make sure that the way we are funding our enterprise system, our water system, is sustainable. And so I am happy to vote yes, because I do not ever want to get in a situation where we have kicked the can down the road, that we are similar to one of the speakers, where they had to raise their capital improvement plan by $500 million in 5 years, or another community that had to raise their water rates by 80% in 1 year. So thank you so much to our staff for consistently looking at this so we don't have shock and awe rate increases for our residents in the future.
Ms. Byrd?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also wanted to add to this. I think when the city provides a service and then charges for that service, we need to always be cognizant of the fact that as the city grows and ages, the way we use water changes. And if we're not thoughtful about how we assess fees, if we're not thoughtful about watching how people's consumption patterns change, if we're not thoughtful about the fact that we're approaching build out and no longer can we rely on brand new development to finance the operation, maintenance, and repair of and the growth of our water infrastructure, then we will wind up having catastrophic rate increases in the future. So Councilor Seitz accurately described different communities, and we have several neighboring communities that in the past, I don't know what their plan had been, but they did have to pass on double-digit rate increases to their citizens, and that's just not what we ever want to do if we can avoid that here in Westminster. So if you're thoughtful, being thoughtful takes time, it takes planning, and sometimes it takes a little bit of budget allocation to make sure we do it right. So I'm happy to support this, happy to support our staff. I think you did a great job, and I appreciate being so smart about this.
Any other comments from council? Seeing none, this will be a light vote. If you would, please. The motion passes on a 6-1 vote. Ms. Seitz, if you would do the other part.
I still have to do the second part. Mr. Mayor, I move to authorize the city manager to execute a contract with Raphaelis Financial Consultants, Inc. in the amount of $359,975 to provide financial consulting services for the water and sewer rate and fee study, and authorize a contingency in the amount of $35,997 for a total authorized expenditure with this firm not to exceed $395,972.
I have a motion. Is there a second? Ms. Garcia?
Second.
Okay. I have a motion second. Is there any discussion? Mr. Baker?
Really, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I really question my colleagues. Do we think that our water department lacks the competence to conduct this rate study? Are we disappointed with anything that they've done in the past? Is there some error on their part? And who has more skin in the game than our own employees? Again, I think this is an unnecessary expenditure.
Ms. Pinter?
Yes, thank you. Again, I want to highlight the excellent water staff and our staff in general in the city of Westminster. Studies like this help us make sure that the work that we're doing takes advantage of the best information available, and I think it is part of the excellence that is frequently executed by our staff. And we've had many an audit, whether it's financially or whether it's of our water systems for health and safety, and every time we come back with high marks for our work, both in protecting the safety and protecting the financial stewardship of our city and of our community. And I want to encourage our staff to pursue excellence in both of those measures. So thank you for your work.
Ms. Sykes?
In regards to Councilor Baker's question, this is an undertaking that we go through every 10 years. And so we don't staff at the level that we have slack for 10 years for the event that we have this much work, this level of in-depth study that needs to be done. So it's much more cost effective to our taxpayers and to have a much more appropriate staffing level to consult on a study that's done every decade.
Ms. Byrd?
One thing I was going to point out to everybody is, did you know that the whole value of our water system, the infrastructure and the value of our water rights portfolio is approximately $4.7 billion? So this is one of our biggest, most important assets. And I think if we were going to be thoughtful in planning for anything, this really is one of them. Not only is it critical to our health, safety, and welfare, and we need it forever. For as long as Westminster is here or people populate this part of the world, we need our water. So for us to be thoughtful about this and protect that very important investment is critical. And again, I am glad to vote yes on this.
I'd like to point out, too, that our city staff, regardless of who does the survey, still owns the product that comes out of the survey. So their skin is still in the game. But they're thoughtful enough not to take on something that's not within their wheelhouse of being a level of expertise, because that's not what they do. So they have identified the issue is we need outside expertise that is more current with these types of rate studies than we do. Also, switching from the CPI index, of which we have used in the past, which is no longer valid in trying to figure out rate studies, is something that was done by us many, many years ago. But we have a very intelligent, very thoughtful group that says, Council, this is someplace that we need help. And it would be derelict on our part to tell them, no, just go figure it out. So therefore, I think it is very prudent for us to vote in favor of this and to give the staff the tools they need to do their work. Mr. Tripp.
Just want to point out one thing real quickly. When you get council communications from us, sometimes it goes overlooked because they're routine, but we put these icons on here, and these icons are there to represent your vision, your goals. And I want to assure you, when we put the icon on that says financially sustainable government, providing excellence in city services, that doesn't get there unless we've tested every one of these expenses that goes onto this agenda, and we're convinced that we can recommend to you that the return on investment is greater than the investment.
Any other comments from council? Okay. At this point, if you would please cast your votes. Again, the motion carries on a 6-1 vote. Next item on the agenda would be item 8I. If I can get it back. There we go. Mr. Garcia.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, on agenda item 8I, I move to authorize the city manager to enter into contract with ECI Site Management, Inc. to provide construction manager general contracting services for the downtown streetscape in Central Square Park with pre-construction fees of $28,920.
Okay, do I have a second? Ms. Bird?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. There are items to be discussed on this one. Mr. Baker.
Yes, two of these are very worthy on the thing, but the third one I'm disappointed with because it's a change that has to do with where the potential restaurant went. And being as we're setting up an alternative one in place, which is a prudent thing to do, I can't see why it should take so much additional money, $161,000, to come up with this plan. So I will be voting no.
Well, that's not the one that's up for the motion right now, Mr. Baker. It's item 1, and that's $28,000. The next one would be the item that you're referring to.
Thank you very much.
Okay, right now, is there any other comments on the first item as this motion is currently presented? All those in favor, please signify with a vote of your light. This motion carries on a 7-0 vote. Next item, Mr. Garcia, if you would.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, authorize the city manager to approve additional fees for the design consultant Wink Associates in the amount of $161,005, increasing the total original authorized expenditure from $579,600 to $740,605.
Have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Seiss, thank you. Mr. Baker, you have a comment on this one, I believe.
Yeah, this is the one I don't like.
Right. Okay, any other comments from council? All those in favor of the motion in a second, please move your lights. This motion passes on a vote of 6-1. Mr. Garcia, we take to the last.
Sure. Finally, Mr. Mayor, I move to authorize staff to purchase 4 water taps for Phase 1 of the streetscape in the amount of $26,763, increasing the total original authorized expenditure for taps from $115,000 to $141,763.
Ms. Byrd?
Second.
Okay, you have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, we will move on. All those in favor of the motion, please vote for your lights. Motion carries on a 7-0 vote. Bless you. Next item on the agenda is item 10A. This is first reading of Councilor's Bill number 11. Ms. Seitz?
Mr. Mayor, I move to pass Councilor's Bill number 11 on first reading, appropriating funds to be received from the Adams County Open Space Program in the amount of $1,906,000.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this item? We want to again thank staff for the diligence that they've done in preparing these applications for the open space grants. Also, Adams County's Open Space Group looks through a lot of comments and a lot of applications, and we were very fortunate to pick up these. Jason, you and your team from Parks, Recs, Libraries have done another outstanding job to pick up over $1 million, again, for the city coming back out of open space funds. So we appreciate all the work you and your group have done. Ms. Seitz?
I also want to say, for me, this is very exciting. This grant is going to be, one portion of this grant is for our Westminster Station Park. One of the reasons that I love our Westminster Station is the fact that we invested in open space and parkland next to it, which is really going to improve quality of life and opportunities for recreation in that portion of our city.
Ms. Pinter?
Yes, since we have the full agenda. I don't know that everyone out in the audience does. It is going to the Westminster Station Park, as well as the Big Dry Creek Trail upgrade, as well as the Long Views trails. So we've got a lot coming from Adams County, and we've had some really great GOCO grants, and I just want to encourage our staff both to use our money prudently as well as to use our regional partners' money as prudently as possible. So thank you for those efforts.
Any other comments? Okay, let's get it. Come on. Okay, all those in favor or opposed to the motion, please cast your light.
That's a roll call.
And that is a roll call. You're right.
Atchison.
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
Bird.
Yes.
DeCambra.
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes.
Pinter.
Yes.
Sights.
Yes.
Motion carries on a 7-0 vote. Next item on the agenda is item 10B. Mr. Baker. Okay, Mr. Canberra.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, I need your. I would like to move to adopt resolution number 14, amending the 2017-2018 pay plan previously approved by City Council, creating 2 new departments consisting of Economic Development and Human Resources with associated staffing changes that include the classification changes to 1 existing full-time employee and the addition of 1 new full-time employee.
You have a second on this motion?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. This is open for discussion at this time. Ms. Bird, go ahead.
Yes, so I guess I just wanted to say how excited I am about this. I think it's great planning as our city grows. I think that issues become more complex, and as we become more thoughtful about how we develop our economy here in Westminster, we want to be thoughtful about how businesses, where they locate, what kinds of jobs they bring in, how they add to our quality of life. And this really elevates this function within our city to I believe, its proper place, where it can really have the impact and do the work, pulling together necessary resources and advancing very intentional plans for economic development in our city. So very excited about this.
Okay, any other comments?
I just want to add a comment in support of what Councilor Bird said. I just want to make sure that we're also calling out human resources as its own department. Everything we do is people power in this city, and so it makes sense that human resources additionally is its own department, and we have such excellence in our human resources department. I'm looking forward to what this new department will bring to the table. So thank you.
Okay, this is a roll call vote. Ms. Parker?
Baker.
No.
Bird.
Yes.
DeCambra.
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes.
Pinter.
Yes.
Sights.
Yes.
Atchison.
Yes. Motion passes on a 6-1 vote. Next item on the agenda is item 11A. This is a councilor's bill, and this does require a roll call vote. Ms. Bird?
Yes, I move to pass Councilor's Bill number 9 on second reading, approving a comprehensive plan amendment for a 7.5 acre property located in the 14700 block of Huron Street, the Orchard at Westminster, from mixed use to R36 residential, from high density residential use without a vertical mix of commercial uses. This recommendation is based on a finding that the criteria set forth in Section 11.4.16 of the Westminster Municipal Code have been met.
Mr. Garcia?
I second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion by council? Mr. Baker?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As I did at the first meeting, I will be voting against this because I don't find this has met the criteria that it serves the needs of our city. I think, indeed, this is really detrimental to our city and to our city partners. This was a plan that was approved in the original design of the plan at the request of the people who built the shopping center there. And in addition to when really Vesta purchased this property, they purchased it knowing full well all of the criteria and limitations and, the restrictions on it. And I don't see how changing this from a property that generated sales tax for our city and generated property tax for our government partners into a property that will now generate no sales tax and very limited property tax and will place a burden on our governmental partners serves the best interests of our city. And our task on council is to serve the best interests of our city.
Okay. Let me point out one thing on this, that this was originally, as Mr. Baker pointed out, set up as a commercial site nearly 20 years ago. Different owners. The economy has changed. The demands have changed. And right now it's bare dirt. It's not creating any sales tax. Property tax is minimal because there's nothing developed on it. And the people who own it have tried to develop this, and they cannot find a buyer, a builder, or a developer interested in this particular part of the orchard where they want to put in commercial because it's on the back side. It's not accessible, it doesn't have the street walking capabilities. So the request is now to bring more people into the shopping center by providing residents on the site so they don't have to all drive. So this, in my opinion, is a very good use of an opportunity to upgrade a plan that's almost 20 years old, doesn't serve the purpose of that neighborhood, doesn't serve the city well being undeveloped and bare dirt, and it doesn't provide an opportunity for more people to live and recreate on that site. So I will be supporting this as the motion moves. Ms. Byrd.
Yes, so similar to what the mayor was saying, so the developers and owners of this property were here during our last council meeting. So I don't know how many of you were here and had the benefit of listening to them kind of describe why they were coming forward with this request. But it was a very reasonable request. Over 20 years, things change, people's preferences change. And as it turned out, most of the commercial development began closer to I-25, and there's development also on the other side of I-25 located in Thornton. So there's this concentration of rich retail development that's already occurring there. So one of the beauties that I see in this approved plan change is we're now supplying the area with additional rooftops. That means more consumers who can go and shop and support these retail and restaurant establishments and make sure that they're sustainable and that they're prosperous, and so that they can generate lots of tax revenue to support city services and our schools as well, keeping all of our governmental entities strong and keeping our community strong. So in terms of who wins, I think this is all win-win for us. It's good planning, it's being proactive, and I think it's keeping our eye on the ball and watching how things change and being nimble and responsive to our economy.
Ms. Byrd? I'm sorry, Ms. Pinter.
Yes, I really want to just echo, I got in line, my colleagues have really covered most of the topics. We had a whole public hearing about this at the last city council meeting, and these were the topics that were discussed, and it really becomes prudent upon us to work with our partners and our neighborhoods and our schools to have responsive communities. We all do better when our economic centers are vibrant. This is something that we heard loud and clear is needed for this economic center to continue to be vibrant. So this is why I'll be voting in favor.
Ms. Seitz?
I just wanted to alert both my council and the audience that I will be abstaining from this and in a subsequent vote. I was just informed by our acting city attorney, as I was not here at the last meeting and did not hear the public hearing, it would be inappropriate for me to cast a vote on this.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Any other comments from council? This will also be a roll call vote as soon as we can get there. And Ms. Parker?
Byrd.
Yes.
DeCambra.
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes.
Pinter.
Yes.
Seitz abstains. Atchison.
Yes.
Baker.
No.
I have 5 in favor, 1 abstain, and 1 no. Motion passes on a 5-1 vote. Next item on the agenda will be item B1, Councilor's Bill number 2. As soon as I can get back. So. Ms. Parker, Mr. Canberra.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
I think it was Ms. Pinter. I just.
Okay. Ms. Pinter, would you like to go?
Yes, sure. I move to pass Councilor's Bill number 2 on first reading, amending chapters 11-4-8, 11-4-9, and also 11-5-20 of the Westminster Municipal Code.
Okay, you have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Byrd. I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion by council? This will be also be a roll call vote. And it is also ready for you, Ms. Parker.
Okay. DeCambra?
Yes.
Garcia?
Yes.
Pinter?
Yes.
Sites abstaining. Atchison?
Yes.
Baker?
No.
Byrd?
Yes.
Okay, I again have a vote total of 5 in favor, 1 abstain, and 1 no. Vote is passing this motion. Mr. Garcia, you want to take that one? Two, or Ms. Pinter, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. Move to pass Councilor's Bill number 10 on first reading, rezoning the land in the Westminster Station specific plan area to specific plan district. This is based on a finding that the criteria set forth in sections 11-5-3 and 11-4-7.5 of the Westminster Municipal Code have been satisfied.
Ms. Byrd?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this item? Okay. Again, a roll call vote. Ms. Parker?
Garcia?
Yes.
Pinter?
Yes.
Sites abstains. Atchison?
Well,
Yes.
she doesn't have to abstain from this one.
Yes.
Yes,
She's
she's got
abstaining
all
through all
three
three.
Oh, okay, fine.
Sorry. Atchison?
Yes.
Baker?
No.
Byrd?
Yes.
DeCambra?
Yes.
Okay, I'm missing 1 vote, folks.
We got it. It's in
Okay, it just came up. Lights aren't always as fast as somebody else's. Again, the motion passes on a vote of 5 in favor, 1 abstain, and 1 no. All right, Ms. Pinter, if you would, please.
Yes. I move to adopt resolution number 13, adopting the Westminster Station Area Specific Plan. This is based on a finding that the criteria set forth in section 11-5-20H of the Westminster Municipal Code have been satisfied.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion by council? Seeing none, this again will be a roll call vote. Ms. Parker?
Pinter?
Yes.
Sites abstains. Atchison?
Yes.
Baker?
No.
Byrd?
Yes.
DeCambra?
Yes.
Garcia?
Yes.
Motion again passes on a 5 yes, 1 abstention, and 1 no vote. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the business of the City Council for tonight, with the exception of there is a post-meeting agenda of 1 executive session. This time is approximately 9:50. We will adjourn at this point and then reconvene in approximately 5 minutes. 8:50, sorry.
We're just at 9:50.
Got it done. Got it done.